All right, hello, this is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, welcoming you to the Rankin Technical College Summer Adventure Academy series. And I'm going to be doing this series of presentations on website design. And I've actually created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I think there's somehow something's missing. I thought there were 23, but either way, about 22 or 23 presentations where we are going to create a simple website and then a bootstrap website and then a website using a product called MobiRise. Now, I've already created all those lectures, and I'm kind of doing this ass backwards in that I'm doing the intro now because I thought that it would, I did an intro to the other Summer Academy Adventures series that I'm doing, but I didn't do one for here. So I'd like to go over that with you right now. So as mentioned, this is Introduction to Website Design. And we're going to talk about HTML5, CSS3. I'm going to mention JavaScript, but it's really too heavy to get into much JavaScript in a week-long class like this. But we're also going to go through Bootstrap and a Bootstrap kind of knockoff, sort of, that's known as MobiRise. So the agenda, as far as what we're going to do, we're going to go and have an introduction to website design, and I just grabbed some stuff off the internet. A very quick little introduction to HTML and HTML5, to CSS and CSS3, and to JavaScript. Then we'll also have, talk a little bit about intermediate web design with a very quick introduction to Bootstrap, a very quick introduction to MobiRise, and then I'll have some last things to say. So as far as what we'll be doing during this class is now we're doing the how to get started with website design. But we're going to do 3 major projects. We're going to spend most of the day on the first day. Again, it's very hard for me to gauge because I want to gauge it based on the audience. All right, but my guess is that we're going to spend all of the first day going over this simple website because I really want people to understand what it is they're doing. Then, again, my guess is we'll spend, and if we need more than a day to do that, that's not a problem at all. It really and truly is not. But then we'll spend at least 2 days and perhaps 3 going over a product that's called Bootstrap. All right, then we'll spend the last day going over a product called MobiRise. Now, if it turns out that it's Wednesday and we've gone through all 3 of these, well, then I'll have to provide more material. All right. So if that's the case, then we'll probably end up just writing our own website from scratch, which would be a fun thing to do anyway. All right. So I'll let you know what's on the flash drive. All right. And we'll look at that in just a minute. And I'll also tell you where you can go when you get done. So what is website design? Again, as mentioned, I pretty much took this off the internet. I don't want to read to you. But web design, as the name implies, it's designing websites. But there's a lot of things to it. And website design and website development are actually 2 different things. You can take a person who has little to no experience working with computers, but is a good marketing person who can work with colors and fonts, etc., and they can become a website designer. But the developer is what we're doing in here. That's the person who actually develops the web pages. All right? Now, websites, all of them. So if I go out to any website, so I come out here, let's see, let's go out, this is Charter. And if I right mouse click on this and I choose View Page Source, it's going to look pretty ugly probably. Yeah, there it is. And actually, it's not that bad. All right. This is HTML. This is what you're going to learn how to write. All right. Now, in this HTML, that was interesting, but in this HTML that I just showed you, you'll notice there are several lines that say link rel equals style sheet. That's CSS or cascading style sheets. Then you've got a bunch of files that have script in here. Those are JavaScript files, including the ones that are here. All right? So websites are created using a markup language that's called HTML. That's the hypertext markup language. If you want more on what HTML is, you can go right here, and there's an HTML5 tutorial at a place called w3schools.com. W3 is kind of an acronym for World Wide Web. You know, the www that you end up putting at the beginning of when you type in a URL in an address bar in a browser. And this, if you want to learn more about HTML and HTML5, you could go to the tutorial here. All right? Web designers build web pages using HTML tags. And if you notice, if I click that, this is a listing of all the HTML tags. There are probably upwards of 100. I don't know, might be a few more, might be a few less. On those tags, you'll notice some of them are kind of red and it says not supported in HTML5, which means those tags have been what are referred to as being deprecated. All right? So they're advised that with all new websites that you design that you don't use those, but they'll still be supported. You'll notice that other tags have this little, looks like an S or whatever. What that is that's a 5, and that's the logo for HTML Hypertext Markup Language 5, which is the newest version of HTML. All right? Like I said, there are many, many tags that are in here. I'm not going to go through those with you ever, as opposed to just right now. We might spend a little time on it, but all right, these tags define the content and what's called metadata, which is data about data of each page. So the content of the page is done through the HTML. The layout of the page, the presentation, its appearance, is done using CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. If you click on there, you'll go to the W3 Schools Cascading Style Sheets tutorial. And the third part, the part that makes websites what they are, what makes them interactive, is what's referred to as JavaScript. And if I click there, I'll go to the W3 Schools JavaScript tutorial. So an HTML page, by its very nature, is a static page. But if you add JavaScript to it, it can make a web page dynamic. Maybe you've gone out to a website where at the bottom it's got a hit count. So in other words, it says you are the 573rd visitor to visit this website. You can do that using JavaScript as an example. There's many, many, many other things that you can do with it also. All right, I went online and went out to Google Images and found a picture of a three-legged stool. I put the text in there using some Microsoft Word art, or I guess PowerPoint Word art, where I put in the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript, because this is what websites are all about. HTML provides the website content. CSS provides the website presentation. And JavaScript provides the website interactivity. So HTML, the stuff that you're going to learn, is going to look like this. And we're going to literally start from scratch. And when I say that, I mean that. We're going to start from scratch. I'm going to assume you know nothing. We're going to put, we're basically going to have some of this built for us. So we'll do the HTML, the hypertext markup language. Then we'll go into the CSS, and that's what CSS looks like. Cascading style sheets. Now, I'm not really going to go into any JavaScript because I think that's too much to put on people in this short of amount of time. But this is what it looks like. This is pure computer code. I should mention that technically, at least, HTML is not a programming language. Rather, it's a markup language. All right? So we're going to build 3 websites. This is what the first one will look like. It'll have 3 pages. These 3 pages right here. It'll have a welcome page with a image on it. It'll have an About Us page that has just text. And it'll have a contact page. And all of this will be functional and operational. Now, this class is what's called a client-side only class, which means when we click this button that's right here that says send, nothing magical is going to happen. All right? But this will be the first website that we will create as a class. We'll create it, and at first we won't have any color or anything in it. That's done through the CSS. After we get done with that, we'll go back and we'll write a second website. And to do that, we'll use Bootstrap. And you notice that this is hyperlinked. And that brings me to the Bootstrap homepage, which is called getbootstrap.com. Bootstrap is sometimes referred to as Twitter Bootstrap, as 2 developers from Twitter are actually the ones that created Bootstrap. What Bootstrap is, more than anything else, is it's a way that allows you to use CSS and JavaScript in your HTML, and it does a lot of the work for you. Now, there are 2 versions of Bootstrap. The current version that's being used right now is 3.3.7. And there is also version 4, which is in what's called alpha mode, and that's in v4.0.0 alpha 6. I had to make a decision before teaching this class, should I teach you version 3 or version 4? And I made the decision to go with version 3. All right, so we are going to be using version 3.3.7 in here. We will, again, create a site. And what site, you might ask? This site. It's going to have 2 pages and another little thing on it. So, in other words, let me bump this up a little bit. Maybe it's a little too big. This will be our home page. Okay? This thing right here in the gray is called a jumbotron. You'll learn what all this stuff means. We've got a few images in here, and we've got some text in here, and a couple buttons, or a few buttons there, and some menu items. Well, that'll be our home page. When you click the About page, which is right there, it's going to bring up a slideshow. Now, I couldn't really reproduce the slideshow very well on here, so I just grabbed a picture. It'll be a nature slideshow. When we come here and we click this contact page, rather than having a new page come up like will come up when we do the About page, we are going to have this contact form come up, and it'll show modally right in front of the form right here. Okay? So I should mention, as the author did, that they say Bootstrap is the most powerful HTML, CSS, and JavaScript framework for developing responsive, mobile-first projects on the web. Our second website will be totally, just about totally, mobily responsive. And if you don't know what that means, you will by the time we get there. All right. After we get done with that, we're going to use a product that I found. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I was working on doing some website work, and I was out on the internet checking some stuff on Google, and I got a hyperlink that said build websites without writing any code. Total drag and drop. So being a little intrigued, I clicked it, and it brought me to Mobirise. This is the Bootstrap logo. This is the Mobirise logo. And if I click there, it brings you to Mobirise. All right, it says create awesome mobile-friendly websites, no coding, and it's free. Okay, so you can do stuff like this. So when we come in, and when, pardon me for a second. So when we come in and we do our last website, we're going to kind of replicate the earlier website that we did with Bootstrap, but we're going to do it all on one page, so to speak. So this will be the first thing on our page. Then we'll see this. Then we'll see this. And then we'll see this. And if that doesn't make sense to you, hopefully at least, it will once we get to that point. All right? Now, you'll get a flash drive for the class, and on the flash drive will be each of the websites that we're going to create this week. Totally done. I'm giving you the code. Use it. Abuse it. Do whatever you want to do with it. All right? The PowerPoint slides I'm showing you right now will also be on there, and as well as a link to the JPS, that's me, Jeffrey Paul Scott, Rankin YouTube channels. Now, if you go out to YouTube, I'm maybe giving you much more information than you care about, but if you go out to youtube.com and you search in here, and I put in Jeff Scott, notice, Rankin Technical College, this is my homepage. And I have presentations on Android App Inventor, which is what I'm doing next week, website design, which are all of these presentations, and you'll notice there are currently 23, and there'll be a new one up on top, which will be the introduction. All right, maybe it'll be down towards the bottom, I don't know. But we've got that, and there's other stuff in here too. I've got all my classes that I teach at Rankin, all of my lectures I record and put them in there. So all of that stuff, as you can see, is in there. I don't want to say any more about it right now, okay? But if I go right here, just so you see this, and I'll put that up on the screen right now, that if you go to here, and again, this is way too big of a URL for me to read because I'd screw it up. If we go to this URL, this right here is my playlist, which has all the videos for this summer academy. All right. Well, that was interesting. So you leave here and you say, okay, I got something out of this. What do I do next? Well, you can take any of the websites that we've worked on and you can extend them. So you can make them do things they're not currently doing. I would recommend that if you do that, you make copies of everything. One of the first time I ever wrote a real computer program, okay, when I went to a 2-year school in Wausau, Wisconsin. And when I went there, we had our first assignment in a language called COBOL, which is a programming language, not used that much anymore, but it stands for Common Business Oriented Language. And we had the first assignment, and I got it done. And I talked to the instructor. His name is Terry Waldvogel, and I said, Mr. Waldvogel, I've got this assignment done. I'd like to go back and really change it around because I don't like what they asked us to do. I'd like to do it myself in my own way. And Mr. Waldvogel gave me unbelievably simplistic advice that was unbelievably intuitive and brilliant. And that was, go ahead and do it, Jeff, but work with a copy. Not so if you screw up what you're working on, but when you do, you've got the original. So I'd recommend you do the same. You can create new websites using HTML, CSS, and maybe a little JavaScript. You can create your own Bootstrap websites or your own Mobirise websites. Finally, just so you're aware of this, I gave you a few links in here. I use a site called Tutorials Point a lot. This will get you to the Tutorials Point HTML5 tutorial. You'll notice it's 169 pages long, so it's not short. You're not going to finish it in a day. This is the Tutorials Point. Don't know what happened there. There it is. CSS tutorial. And the first one had 169 pages. This has 158. Next, we've got the Tutorials Point. And this is their JavaScript tutorial, and this is a lot longer as far as I remember. It's 388 pages. finally, we've got the Tutorials Point Bootstrap tutorial. And that is 257 pages. So that's plenty of reading for you to do. All right? I'd like to thank you in advance and tell you that as we're going through this, I would strongly encourage you to please, please, please ask anytime there are questions. If you ask and you have a question and you ask and I answer it and you're still confused, then say, I still don't get it. My goal is to take all of you in this class and make you beginning website developers. Thank you, and let's get started.